Hi, everybody. Just started going live here, so I'm just going to wait a few minutes, see if anybody comes in. Today, of course, we're talking about how to get the brows you want. A lot of questions regarding brows, confusion. There's a lot of mix-ups and confusion based on brow terminology. A lot of us in the industry use various terms to describe types of brow tattooing. I know that a lot of you who would like to get a cosmetic tattoo don't necessarily want to get a microbladed one. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the different types of eyebrow tattoos and how they're done, the machinery, the equipment that's used, and that way you can make a educated decision based on the advantages of certain brows and the disadvantages of using and getting certain brows. So yeah, I'm just going to wait a few more minutes and then we'll start. Okay, so let's see. So basically, what happens is when you go and get your brows done, most of the questions that I get from clients is, what type of brow do I want to get? Well, you know, it's a huge question, just because a lot of people come in thinking they want a microbladed brow. Well, microbladed brows don't work on everybody that well. Microbladed brows they have their advantages, but they also have their disadvantages. The disadvantages being they don't last as long. They're not the best for oily skin. And if done too many times, they can cause scarring. So what I advise to people is basically, if you have very oily skin, you have an active lifestyle, the brows that you can use on your face typically would be more of an ombre or a combination brow. So that way you'll get longer lifespan. So another question is that there is a lot of confusion over terminology. So somebody will come in and ask for, say, a powder brow, and maybe they show me a picture of something like a combination brow or a feathered brow or microbladed brow, and they think that's what that is. So what I've done is I've got a little visual reference here. So I'm going to put it up to the screen. So when you guys are shopping for brows, you've typically got, these are your three choices. So you're looking at microblading, which is just hair strokes. So the microblading, just hair strokes, it's done using a manual pen, okay? And the ink is deposited through the dermal layer, and it is the advantages is that it's very natural. And again, the disadvantages is more touch-ups are needed, and it's not good for all skin types, not good for cover-ups either. So for example, if you came in with some additional cosmetic tattooing you had done 5 or 6 years ago, you don't want it anymore, maybe it's really faded, you just want to cover it up, microblading would not be the best option for you. You would be better off with either a combination or an ombre shading brow. Those are the two other brow options that would work much better for you. But the microblading is good for people that don't have overly sparse brows, perfect skin, normal to dry skin, and maybe people that have some brows currently on their face. But somebody that has next to no brows, oily skin, active lifestyle, I highly recommend the combination or the ombre shading. Okay, so again, the microblading, it is done using a manual tool. The manual tool, we dip in pigment, and we pattern with the blade, and then we let the pigment sit on the skin for a few minutes to let dry, and then we wipe away. We then go and do it on the other side, and we go back and forth, and as we go back and forth and work, we apply the in-between strokes to get the final desired effect. Okay, so combination. This is a fabulous brow. I love this brow. It's the best of both worlds. What you can do with it is it allows you to, if you have an active lifestyle, if you have oilier skin, it will last a little bit longer, but it still gives you a little bit of, it gives you a little bit more definition, but it also gives you a little bit more fluff in the front. And I mean, there's several variations of this. This is just one visual variation. They can all be varied depending on the size of the brow and also depending on the style of the brow as well. Okay, and how the combination one is used, it's used basically, again, oily skin, active lifestyles. Okay, so those are the two bases, main bases, or very sparse brows. Okay, so as far as the equipment used to do this combination brow, you're using the manual tool like you would in the microblading, but you're also using a machine. Okay, that, I mean, you could be using a manual tool to do shading, but if you're looking for a technician to do a nice combination brow, I highly advise, no matter who you look for, that they are properly trained to do the machine. Okay, knowing how to do microblading versus knowing how to use a machine, two different things. Using a machine, the technician does require more skill, more practice, and additional training. So when you go to if you're interested in getting a combination brow, just ensure that whoever's doing it, they have the proper training, and always, again, make sure to look at pictures. Pictures are really important for this. Okay, so again, combination brow. Ombre shading, another fabulous brow. Again, perfect for oily and combination skin and somebody who has extremely sparse brows and is looking for something that's a little longer lasting. Now, this tends to be a little bit more of a dramatic brow. So just be warned, people come in, a lot of my clients come in and they're very excited about getting an ombre brow. They love the look of them. But just when you create an ombre brow, because there's a lot of shading, it's dark to front, but when we actually use, because to do an ombre brow, you need to use a machine again. So to create this effect, you need to do a lot of shading. Now, just like any other tattoo, anywhere you do shading, even though there's less pigment in this area, the area that you've gone over with the machine is going to look, when you first have it done, almost as dark as the back end of the brow. So it can be quite intense when you're getting this brow initially. So there's got to be a lot of faith and trust involved in knowing how that brow is going to heal, because a lot of times when we first do it, it starts out really dark, and as the healing process continues, what happens is the client, you will find out that as you see the brow get into its final healing state, you will notice that the brow itself ends up healed in, as you see in this picture. So it's very dark in the end, and then it fades into the front. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell as far as the differences go. And again, the first one is manual. Microblading is manual. Another term for microblading that a lot of technicians use is they call it microstroking, or they also call it feathering. Okay, as far as a combination brow, it's combination brow, blade and shade, combo brow, all of those terms are pretty much describing the same brow style. Ombre brow, another term for that would be shaded brow. And again, with the combo brow, I highly recommend that if you're going anywhere seeking a technician to do any of either the combo brow or the ombre brow, what you need to do is you need to ensure that they are using a machine and they're properly skilled and trained to use a machine. Again, it requires additional skills and training to do that. So I've used both. I've been doing this for a few years. So I've used the manual tool to do shading, and I've also used the machine. I prefer the machine. Typically when we do it, we use a very, very fine point, and it allows us to get a very soft feathered effect and crisp edges at the same time. So that's the important part, and that's the effect that most people are looking for in their eyebrow when they're either getting a combo brow or the ombre brow. And again, that takes a little bit more additional training and skills. But again, I've used the manual tool versus the machine. Hands down, I will stick to using the machine to do those other brows, just because the final heel product and the control and the brow that you get in the end is far superior compared to a manual shaded brow. So that's it. I hope that helps clarify a little bit on the different brows and what you need to look for as a consumer out there looking to get the perfect brow. And the bottom line is find that technician and look at pictures. You know, look at her pictures, make sure she's VHA inspected, and go from there. And thank you very much. And I'll see you next week, and we'll have some other stuff that we'll be announcing, and hopefully a guest person as well. Okay? See you later. Bye.